Welcome to the Higher Self Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you unravel anything keeping you from a life of true abundance, joy, and happiness, which is your birthright. Each week, we'll bring in different guests specifically tailored to help you on your journey to discovering your higher self. Whether it's spirituality, business, finances, health, or relationships, there are no topics that are off limits. So get ready and enjoy this week's episode on the higher self. All right, so this is going to be a big one. I met this individual, Jillian. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
I was introduced to her by my friend Tim, which many of you remember was here on the show before. And from the moment we met, you said, I asked you, what do you do? And you said, I help people with eating disorders and I use the medicine. And that caught my attention right away. I told you that I was interested in this conversation and I was looking forward to it for personal reasons as well, because, you know, emotional eating is something that even I struggle with. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited for this conversation. And just give us a little background. You were just telling us you just moved to Austin from Miami. What was that like and what happened?
Fresh to Austin. It's really like a journey of surrender, especially since 2020. I've been on this incredible path that has felt very heart-led. And that's what brought me to Austin. Just not really feeling like Miami was my home, not really having community, really feeling like I wanted to be around nature and pursue my deepest passion, which is to make a difference for people. And this seems like very fertile ground here in Austin.
It really is. How did you find that passion? And before you even answer, one of the things that I always tell people is that, like, in the midst of your deepest struggle, in the midst of your pain, in the midst of the things that go wrong in life, there's a gift.
Oh, yeah.
And the gift is that you are able to transmute that energy if you choose, to transmute that energy and look on the other side of that pain. There's a lesson that you learned. There's something that you overcame. And as a result of the energy of overcoming and the experience of overcoming and the transformation that you were a part of, you get to then go help other people do that, right?
Yes.
And I think so many people, you know, unfortunately, we're so caught in the pain that we don't allow ourselves to tap into the courage that we have to let go of it and to transmute that energy. And it feels like that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, there's so much there.
Yeah.
There's so much. I always say that, you know, the gifts of trauma are like they're wrapped in thorns. And in order to unpack them, you got to get a little bloody. But if you're willing to release, if you're willing to go through that process, then you stand tall. Really, it's really magical. I lived in that space. I lived in suffering for my entire life until 2020. When like the doors blew open because of grandmother ayahuasca.
So how many years was that?
That was 3 years ago. So I'm 34 and my process started when I was 31 in this pretty cataclysmic way. I struggled with an eating disorder all of my life because in the beginning of my experience, I was up against a lot of really intense trauma. And food became what I used to comfort myself. And so I was kind of in that space for a long time, not really entering into the realms of eating disorders, although it was disordered eating. And then after high school, it really developed and spun into full-blown bulimia and binge eating disorder to the point where I checked myself into treatment and started that kind of path of recovery. But even in those spaces, those treatment centers are very focused on behavioral modification, behavioral change. And I knew it wasn't about the food. It wasn't about changing my behavior. There was this underlying force that was like felt out of control for me, that no one was addressing. And I just kind of kept trying to figure it out until I found medicine. And then everything opened.
Of course.
Yeah.
How open are you to sharing, you know, your story?
Pretty open.
Pretty open? Yeah. Probably pretty open-ish. because I'm sensing what I know from working with people. It takes a pretty deep wounding for an issue like that to occur.
Yeah.
So, are you open to sharing?
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess I'll start with the initial imprint that I was shown thanks to ayahuasca. The very first ceremony that I ever did, where I dropped in, it was really incredible. It was in a forest, and as the medicine was starting to kick in, I see this branch, and I start following this branch, and it goes all the way around me. I start turning my body. It goes all the way around me until it gets to this tree. And as soon as I hit the tree with my eyes, I dropped into my mother's womb. And I was very clear in the medicine, of course, you know where you are, right? Mm-hmm. I was in my mother's womb, and I felt this overwhelming feeling of separation, of this loveless body. My mother had experienced a lot of pain herself. My mother was in full-blown survival mode when I was conceived and throughout gestation. And I felt this, the attacks of cortisol, the stress hormone, like insulting my fetus self. And that's an imprint. You know, some people are like, that's a little woo, but like that was an imprint, right?
No, yeah.
And so moving through, right, the birth and infancy, my father was away in art school. So my mom was basically a single mother and sent me to daycare after 6 weeks of life because she had to. But not only that, not only was there an actual physical separation, there was such an emotional separation because my mom was working in a corporate environment that was extremely toxic, in just full-blown survival. And so something fascinating was that, you know, as babies, we don't experience life cognitively. We can't make sense of anything, obviously. So our reality is dictated by the energy that's around us, what we're feeling energetically. And so my world felt unsafe. My world felt dangerous. There was separation, and as a baby, that's a deep threat. Deep, deep threat. The only moments in which I felt soothed was when I was being fed.
Good. Wow.
Because oxytocin, which is the feel-good, delicious hormone that is induced or produced when there's skin-to-skin contact with mother and baby, my mother was flooded with oxytocin. I was flooded with oxytocin. Oxytocin promotes lactation. So the only time in which I was soothed was when I was eating. So that was like, you know, neurons that fire together, wire together. Like that was like seared in there.
Hardwired.
And then as a 3-year-old, I was sexually abused. 3, 4, and 5. Like repeatedly sexually abused. And here's the interesting thing. I had zero recollection for 30 years. I had no idea. I had no idea why I hated myself. I had no idea why I punished myself. I had no idea why I couldn't stop using food to numb. Why I was being objectified by men and that whole world. Until I sat with ayahuasca in 2020 to try to save my marriage that was incredibly misaligned. And I ended up learning my story. And it rocked me to my core. And my entire life made sense.
There's this power in what you're sharing, because so many people wish they knew why they are the way they are. And I know that moment, and you know that moment, and you know it's why there's nothing like Mother Ayahuasca, nothing.
Mm-mm.
And
people are afraid of learning I think.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that because it was uncomfortable, highly uncomfortable.
And I was afraid too.
Yeah. But I would do it every fucking day if I had to.
Yeah.
Because what came after that, the freedom that I've experienced, the growth, like the shedding, they say like the truth shall set you free.
The truth shall set you free.
It's so worth it.
You know, I almost feel like that was placed in the Bible. You know, I see the Bible so different now. Once you're disconnected, right? I see it like a maze. And I see it like little pieces were placed, little pieces of truth surrounded by the non-truth.
Sure.
You know what I'm
Sure.
You know what I mean by that. I know some people get offended if I say that, but when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you can grab those little pieces of truth, it's like when you're journeying, it's like it's
The gems.
It's right? Yeah. Yeah. So how did that recovery start for you?
Well, it's interesting because that particular ceremony, and I guess I'll share this also, like that experience was very gentle from Mama Aya. Like I wasn't being re-traumatized. I didn't have to relive. I was shown in a way that was manageable and it wasn't comfortable, but it was like, okay, I'm learning, I'm seeing, this is bizarre. But what happened after that was that I wasn't ready to deal with it. I wasn't supported. I wasn't held in the environment and the relationship that I was in. And so I kind of put it away. I totally put it away. I was like, okay, that's out. Like, good to know. We can move on now.
Time out, because this is very important. So you go, you do the healing work, and then you come back home, and you're still in a relationship,
Correct.
which you know is misaligned.
I was fighting the hell out of that.
Got it.
I had lost myself so entirely. I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. You know, when you experience something like that at such a young age, we are hardwired to want and receive love. And so I became this like chameleon. It was like, I'll do anything to feel love and belonging and safety and love. And so if you want me to be like that, I'll be like that. I had lost myself so deeply. So I was fighting for this marriage, even though it was misaligned, because that's the only person I had.
Right.
I lived in deep isolation. And so I went to save this marriage, and I ended up learning about my story. And as soon as that ceremony was over, I was like, great, I can go have babies. That's gone. Like that's how,
wow.
That's how like resistant my ego was to really absorbing the reality that I just learned.
That's right.
And so I put it in a box, and things started to unravel. We got divorced. I launched my business in the same month. I was like, you know,
hang on, hold on. So that's huge, because, and I say that because in our community, you know, I feel like this is growing, and it's growing so much because it's just human beings that are coming to realizations about themselves that they were maybe once afraid to realize and to address. And I feel like we're holding space, right? And we're inviting them to take a look at parts of themselves that maybe they were afraid to take a look at, to see, you know. And that's a lot, what you just said. I got a divorce and I launched a new business. So I've been through both, right? And I'd like to just, before you go any further, you know, talk about that. Like, first off, what was that divorce like for you?
It was very amicable.
Okay.
It was very amicable. I was in a very low self-worth space. And so I felt like I had to do this, even though I was terrified, petrified. I felt like I was jumping off a cliff, and life was very lovingly, with her hands on my back, pushing me off a cliff. But there was love. And I jumped, you know, I had to. I knew that staying in that dynamic I was more afraid of that, of not living, of staying in that relationship that was so, I want to honor him, but it was so, what's the word? restrictive for my being. You know, I could not move. I could not feel myself. I wasn't seen. I didn't see him. It wasn't just misaligned. And I was more afraid of staying and knowing that I was going to live a numb life than taking the risk of jumping and being caught. And I had already gotten my RD license, and I had been looking for job opportunities online, but I knew I never wanted to go the clinical route. I'm a functional RD. And so I was like, fuck it. I'm going to start my practice. I saw other people from my class who'd graduated that were starting their practice. And I was like, if they can do it,
yeah, I can do it too.
I can do it.
Yeah.
And
for those that don't know, RD is
registered dietitian. Yeah. And so it became like, I mean, I was in a state of survival. It was like, this is it or this is it.
Right.
That's my choice.
And there's a gift in that.
For sure.
There's so much healing, so
I
much
hustled.
growth. Yeah.
I hustled and it was magical also. I was very supported. Like I had made relationships with functional medicine practitioners who trusted me, who trusted my work and my knowledge, and began to refer their people to me. And honestly, it was like right from the get-go, I was supporting myself financially. I wasn't living affluently, but like I was
You were
okay. But it's interesting that like when you're in that space of cliff jumping, all of your survival wounds become activated. And so I was like, holy shit, I had just lived with someone and been with someone and been financially supported by someone for the past 7 years. And now I'm supporting myself with a brand new business. Like, this is insane. So like, I was excited, I was terrified, I was all the things. And little by little, I started to waver with food. That is I'll tell you more about this in a second, but that's my alarm system. People that emotionally eat have a freaking gift. They have a built-in alarm system. And every time they want to eat compulsively, there's a radar going off, there's a siren going off in their bodies saying, there's something you're not willing to feel. There's something in here that wants your attention. And so that's my cue. And this is what I teach my people. This is the cue to sit down and put your hand over your heart and feel what's there. And what I felt was a call for the medicine. And so I sat again on 4/4/21, April 4th.
You went back.
I went back.
How many sits?
I sat once. The first time was 3.
3.
And that was my first experience.
Like a retreat type of thing. Yeah.
That was my first experience with Aya. I had not even sat with mushrooms yet. I didn't know much about it, which is probably a good thing. Cause maybe I wouldn't.
Just go, open your mouth, lay down.
Right.
Yeah.
So I felt called to sit again. And this time it was in a woman's circle closer to home. And this medicine woman had Ayahuasca chocolates with psilocybin and ayahuasca. And the ayahuasca.
The combo.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't feel that's necessary.
Yeah, I don't do that.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, that's the two different energies. There.
Different energies, but divine. And the ayahuasca from that medicine, in my experience, activated everything that had been there before that I didn't want to see, that I didn't want to listen to. And this time ayahuasca was like, you're going to hear.
Now you're going to know.
And it blew my world open in a very uncomfortable way. That like absolutely dissolved everything I knew. And I plunged into deep solitude for 2 years, just cleaning and realizing that all these gems have been waiting for me in the dirt. And it became really clear as I began to integrate these nuggets of wisdom that I was meant to share this with people.
Absolutely.
Because in my opinion, food is the most abused substance on the planet. And I know that world so deep.
You know, when I was, many of you that are out there have seen the picture. There's a picture of me. Casper, if we can get this in the edit, if we could somehow show this picture. There's a picture of me. My head is this big. I kid you not. It's this big. And I'm like, because I'm drunk.
Fuck.
And, you know, it's so sad to think of who I was back then. But, you know, for me, it's even sadder to think of how many people live like this, but I remember vividly. I would take Oreo cookies. I would take Oreo cookies, which is sugar. This is like a full circle moment for me right now. I have to
I
tell
love
you
it.
this.
I'm here for it.
It's a full circle moment for me. But I would take Oreo cookies and I would crumble them up in a cup like that, and I would stick it in there. And as a matter of fact, I knew that cup wasn't big enough for what I wanted to do. So then I had like a bigger cup, and I would crumble them up like this, and I would stick them in there, and then I would put cow milk, which if you don't know, but like cow milk, right?
Wow.
And
Like unprocessed.
yes, just from like
The other.
fucking the gas station down the street.
Okay.
Just bad stuff. Anyhow, cow milk, and I would fill it up to the top, and I would literally, Jillian, I would go, just shove it,
Yeah.
and then I would do it again,
Yeah.
and then I would do it again, and then I would do it one more time. 3 to 4 cups like that, and that was my go-to, right? And this might sound dramatic to you. What I didn't realize was I was killing myself, because that's what we do, right? I was trying to kill the thing that I was feeling inside,
That's right.
right? And the unhappiness and the uncertainty and the disconnection and the just everything that was going on in my life at that time. And then on the weekends, I would be drunk. And I was never like a mean drunk or like an angry drunk. I was like a happy drunk. So I thought it's okay to be drunk because I'm a happy drunk.
Sure.
What I didn't realize was, I was using food to obviously numb the pain and try to kill this pain that was living inside of me. This week in my Inner Circle program, we have one of our clients. Her name is Dr. Jillian, and Dr. Jillian does something called Carol food intolerance. Do you know what this is? It's some ancient wisdom where she sent me this kit. I prick my ear. She puts my blood on this little chingadera, this little piece of paper, and I send it to her. And then she tests
Cool.
my blood to see what are the things that my blood doesn't like. Do you know what they were? Dairy
Oreos.
and sugar.
Yeah. Oreos. Yeah.
It's insane to me to think that my system knew the 2 worst things that I could possibly put in my body, and the pain that was living inside of me was searching for the thing that was killing me.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
That's wild to me.
Food is really interesting. I remember when I was in treatment, and of course I don't wish this on myself or anybody else, but I remember being like envious of the women who had a substance abuse issue, because I understood that with a substance, you could omit it from your life. You could omit alcohol. You could be sober. But food, there was this call to I had to learn to dance with it. I had to fully go through the portal and understand how to dance with this thing and live with this thing and heal from this thing in order to survive. And, it's so deeply charged. It's what bonded us to our mothers when we were infants. It's what sustains life. It's also what kills us. And I think that, as somebody in the health space, right, I see clients with myriad of chronic illnesses, right? But it's not about the weight. It's not about the food. It's the actual epidemic is not obesity. The actual epidemic is numbness and dissociation. And we use food to do that. Food is the ultimate number. I mean, it's not the ultimate. There are other strong substances that are quite effective at that, but it's a major source of numbness. And so as you were shoveling Oreos and milk down, you were shoving down your pain, You were shoving down your truth, and you were creating this gap between yourself and what you were feeling. You were dissociating. And that's what I want to dissolve. I want to dissolve the wedge that stands between a person and their truth and their pain, so that they can come back into their body and feel what wants to be felt, what's waiting in the queue, so that they can be free. And I know the feeling, like I didn't want to get back in my body. There was a lot of scary shit in there. I lived dissociated for the vast majority of my life. But cultivating safety internally is everything. It's everything.
It's so interesting. This is such a fuck, man. Like, it's like, sometimes we have these conversations. I know you guys are feeling this right now because this is like, there's an energy here, but it's so interesting to me. And it's so interesting that you're here. The universe is perfect. It's so interesting that you're here in this moment, because I feel like this week for me was like a deciding factor. This week for me was like the other issue, and I believe that most men and women, both men and women, especially in today's society, face this issue, was I had some sort of body dysmorphia thing going on. So I would stand in the mirror and I would look at myself, and then I would get like depressed with how I looked, because I have an image of what I know is and I believe this is our right, our birthright, is that we have the capacity to live in, house, and create whatever body it is that we want,
Sure.
I just didn't know how to get there. So then I went vegan, and I went vegan because of what I saw with Mother Aya, and because my heart opened, and because I can never hurt the animals, and that's just like, once that's in you, it's tough to shake.
Sure.
What I'm realizing happened was, during the time that I went vegan, I also was drinking a lot of coffee. I wasn't sleeping. And so then I created like this story. This is all recent. I created this story with like, being a vegan means I don't sleep. What it really was the caffeine and a whole bunch of other shit that I was doing. But then I kind of went back to eating animal. I've been in this dance. I've been in this journey. This is recently. This is as recent as this week, where then I would start, the energy of guilt would start to come in because I was eating animals. But I felt stronger because I was eating animal. So it was a mess, an absolute mess. And then one night this week, we went out to dinner, and I had a little bit of chicken. No big deal. But I also had the thing that in my Caro food intolerance thing, it said, don't do this, avoid this at all costs, which was dairy. And I'm telling you, it's like my tongue was like
Wow.
that fat.
Wow.
Like I was like greasy and disgusting, and I was inflamed. Wow. And that night, I just, like, in my dreams, or in my, whatever state it was, I was like, I can't do this to myself anymore. I don't want this feeling. Like it feels like no one else is doing this to me. I'm doing it to me, And so it can't no longer be about the way I look. It can't no longer be about all these things that you made it about, Danny. It's about, like, truly loving yourself.
There's a big nugget in there. Can I ask you a question?
Please.
What state are you in on average when you eat? What is happening in your body?
So as I'm thinking of that question, I fast all day.
Okay.
I typically only eat once a day. And when I do eat, if I'm by myself and I have my system and I have my rice and I have my tofu and I have my veggies, I make it up, I put a little sea salt, I'm happy, life is good. My dessert is my little blackberries with a little sugar-free chocolate, dairy-free vegan chocolate. Life is epic. When I'm around other people that I love.
Wait.
What?
Wait.
Okay,
so
go,
when you're
go.
And you have everything.
Yeah.
Like, aside from your emotional state, what's happening physiologically? Is there is there this compulsive, are you eating fast? Are you chewing thoroughly? Is there this like this compulsive?
Oh, I think I'm still shoving it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I knew.
Go ahead.
I knew because I lived that. But also, when we are in that state, there's so much here. But like when
we can go because I think this is going to be very helpful.
When we are in that state, I'll talk about the physical and the emotional. The physical is like there are stress hormones being secreted, cortisol, etc. when we are in that compulsive state, right? It's the fight or flight system. And what the body doesn't give a shit about in that state is digestion. The body cares about survival. So blood is sent to the prefrontal cortex so you can make executive decisions of how to survive and dodge the saber-toothed tiger that's hypothetically chasing you. A glucose is sent to the extremities so you can run away. Blood is not focusing on digestion and absorption and assimilation and all the things. So that's like really the physical. So like you're actually creating more and more inflammation. Weight is being stored when you're eating in a stressed, compulsive state. Emotionally, you're in this compulsive energy, you're likely not even tasting the food. So you're not really able to make decisions from a standpoint of nourishment.
I go unconscious.
Correct.
It's
like a shark with the eyeballs rolling back and me too. I know it.
I literally. And then if there happens to be something in the cupboard, and then I grab one thing and another thing and another thing. And then next thing you know, then I feel bad. I'm like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I know. I lived that.
Yeah.
So deep.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love the word nourishment because nourishment, of course, it means like beautiful sustenance, minerals and vitamins from food, all the stuff, but it also means nourishment for the soul, nourishment for the body, nourishment for the heart, nourishment for the moment. You know, it's so deep. And so you likely, if I had to guess, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like you likely made that choice at that restaurant, not from a place of nourishment and honoring of the body, but it was actually an emotional decision. There's an emotional undercurrent to food all the damn time.
Yeah.
How do I know this? Because we have physiological hunger fullness cues. Leptin stimulates the feeling of satiety. Ghrelin stimulates feeling of satiety. Leptin stimulates hunger. But those are being bypassed all the time because people are eating in excess. So we're overriding our hunger fullness cues. We're overriding our physiology. Why? There's an emotional component. There's a hunger on a level that has nothing to do with food. And that's why you were eating. And that's the state that you're in when you eat in that way. You're trying to nourish something that has nothing to do with the physical. Does that resonate?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you could be in a happy state. You can feel blessed and grateful for your life and this beautiful food that's in front of you, but there's something that wants nourishment.
No, I don't do any of that. I don't do that. That's not food to me. Like if I'm honest, sometimes I'll see pictures, like, you're on Instagram and people like make these beautiful, colorful dishes. And it's like, no, food is like a, yeah, it ain't that.
What is it?
I'm trying to find the word. Food is like part of the goal. It makes me feel a certain way. I don't know what it is.
How does it make you feel?
If I eat what I'm supposed to eat and I feel good, I feel like proud of myself, or like, okay, you did the job, right? And then if I overeat or I pick the wrong foods, I feel disappointed in myself. And then
So like this good and bad
there's
polarity.
a good and bad. There's
Yeah.
a good and bad polarity. And then it's this constant, if I can just be good for long enough, then I'll get this outcome. Which is to look a certain way and to feel a certain way, and then I'll be happy.
Yeah. I played that game hard. So hard. Yeah. Do you want to know what weight loss is a byproduct of?
What?
Self-love. Weight loss is a byproduct of self-love. Weight loss is a byproduct of self-care, because when you're caring for yourself and you're loving yourself, you're tuning into the emotional needs that need to be met, that want to be met, and it has nothing to do with food. And food can become a source of nourishment. Food can actually be the thing, which is why it's so dope. Food was the thing that severed me from myself, dissociated me from my body, but it also was the thing that brought me back in. It also was the thing that allowed me to reconnect, took me on this incredibly magical spiritual journey.
It's like, I'll be honest with you. This is fucking great. This is wild right now. It's like, I'll be honest with you. You brought me food.
I always do.
You're like a little bruja, aren't you? You're like you brought me food. You brought me my favorite food. But as I received it, I wasn't even happy. And I wasn't happy because the clock says 1:48 p.m. right now, and I don't eat until 5 p.m. And if I eat prior to 1:48 p.m., so I literally, this is how sick it is. This is how sick it is. I literally looked at my father-in-law and was thinking, please eat it because I don't want it to go to waste, but I really would love to eat it, but it's just not my time to eat right now.
Such energy of prison.
Oh my God.
Such a prison.
Wow.
Such a fucking prison, man. There's so much freedom waiting for you. I'm really excited for you.
I'm excited too because this, like, I was already working on it, like little by little, and feels like shit. I might need a little microdose or something just to like really cement this in. But it's interesting to me, and when people ask about plant medicine, like, use this as an example. As much as I've worked, there's still stuff.
Of course,
there's still stuff.
Same.
Because this was never an intention for me in my journey.
Yeah. I'm still pulling back the layers. I'm still in this dance with food. My earliest memory of this was at 6 freaking weeks. Like, that imprint is deep in my cells, in my tissue, in my nervous system. But that's the thing. It's all about nervous system regulation. That's why you want the food. That's why there's this compulsive urge. We are designed to seek homeostasis. No creature in nature can survive in a sympathetic state, in a fight or flight state, in a high-strung state perpetually. They die. We are no different. So we are always trying to seek parasympathetic, that status, that rest, digest, relax, heal. We seek it in our vapes. We seek it in relationships. We seek it with food and narcotics and you name it.
Sex.
All of it. But that's what we're seeking, is like a down-regulation of our nervous system. And so if you can become aware, I like to use like the word, become a detective of your deepest triggers, of the things that trip your nervous system. One of mine is the feeling of overwhelm. If I like have too much going on, I feel like things are going to fall through the cracks. Like I get like that anxiety, and like I would always, and especially, in school, I was like from the desk to the fridge, like a ping pong ball, just trying to self-soothe. That's all. Like, anyone that's carrying excess weight, it's not because you're pathetic or you're lazy or you have no willpower. None of that is true. It's because you have a lot of fucking pain and you were not supported in ways to deal with this. And you're using an old mechanism that once worked, that doesn't anymore. And so actually the prerequisite, it's twofold. It's identifying your triggers, your main ones, And then it's self-compassion. And this is why I work with medicine in my practice, because not only did medicine show me my story, which was completely suppressed from my memory, but it flooded me with this tsunami of self-compassion. For the first time in my life, I saw myself with different eyes. I didn't hate myself or pick apart my body. I was like, oh my God, that poor little 3-year-old. And it's victim consciousness. People shame victim, but I was victimized. I'm not a victim, but I was. And so that energy needed to be diffused. It needed to be held so deeply. And that's what I've learned to give myself. And that's what I help women cultivate in themselves. And from there, safety is established within themselves and in their bodies, so they can then sit with the discomfort. Because when you sit with something uncomfortable, you no longer need anything to fucking numb it. It loses its charge.
And as you said that, I thought, imagine how much this impacts relationship. That's a whole nother.
If you don't live inside your body,
right?
One of the things that both infuriates me and lights a fire in all of my body is how disempowered women are. How we are living in this just epic distraction of perfectionism and what our bodies should look like so that we can be desirable. It's such a distraction. It's hilarious and also infuriating and very real and not funny. But when, as a woman, our greatest source of strength and power and magic is our intuition. But if we're not in our bodies, we are severed from the access of it. We can't feel it. It's not a cognitive endeavor, intuition. It's a felt sense. If we are numb and living outside of our bodies, we have no access to it. And men and their magic in creating space and holding space and safety and protection, attunement. They must be attuned to their partner, to their project, whatever they're creating. If they're not in their bodies, they are lost. They are seeking. It's fuck, we have to get back in our bodies. We all have to get back in our bodies so that we can exchange energy, so that we can feel each other's hearts, so that we can have empathy, so we can form connection, so we can be led by our hearts, so that we can work our magic.
Yeah. Because if not, we're in the mind and only in the mind.
Yeah.
And that's where the trap lies,
Totally.
That's where the trap is. And when it comes to women, it infuriates me. It breaks my heart to see how many women are altering themselves.
I had breast explant surgery 1.5 years ago.
You took them out.
I had 5 pounds of silicone on my chest for 12 years, blocking my heart chakra. I couldn't feel and I couldn't breathe because that's what I thought I was supposed to look like. Last March, it was a huge ceremony.
And what did that feel like for you?
It was one of the greatest acts of self-love I've ever made.
To remove the implant.
Absolutely.
I believe that's what it is. I believe that when you can remove the implant and the needles and the lips and the butt and the everything, I believe that's when you're ready to start fully loving yourself and accepting yourself for who it is that you really are.
Absolutely.
And I think that is one of the greatest things that's causing the demise of our society is our women not knowing how to appreciate and love themselves.
Absolutely. Because we are, holy shit, are we powerful.
Absolutely. When you know who you are and when you're tapped into that intuition, to that womb.
Well, the body holds deep wisdom.
That's right.
Ancient wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are not in our bodies, we don't have access to a single morsel of it.
Hey, thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. The reality is if you're watching this show, It's because you are searching for more, and you know deep within your heart and soul that there is more potential from your life. Maybe you desire true financial abundance and freedom. Maybe you desire to heal the fragmented parts of you. Or maybe you desire to attract the relationship of your dreams and be in a relationship with passion and true love. Whatever the case may be, that is what we specialize in. We specialize in helping you and guiding you to healing the fragmented parts of your life that have created these stories in your mind that keep you from living the life of your dreams. If you want to find out how we can guide you in that process, my mastermind Inner Circle does just that. It's a group of like-minded individuals that is wanting the absolute best out of life and will not settle for anything less. We get together 4 times a year in person and twice a month online. If you're in a place in your life where you're ready to discover your truest potential, then Inner Circle is for you. Message us the word Inner Circle right now on Instagram or Facebook at Danny Morel. Our team will message you back and begin to share with you the details about what it would take for you to join our Inner Circle. Message us the words Inner Circle right now. And it's, women, it's like they don't realize I know it's just an injection. Same with men.
I know.
With the steroids and the testosterone and all of that stuff, your body has the capacity to create this for yourself. And your lips are beautiful the way your lips are. And quite frankly, a conscious man doesn't want to taste or kiss that fucking shit in your mouth. Straight up. So the only man who you can attract when you have that shit in your mouth is an unconscious man. Don't get mad at the messenger. This is the truth.
It's true.
Because the conscious man, the conscious woman, a conscious woman is not going to want to be with a man on steroids.
No.
Because she knows that he's taking the steroids because he's avoiding the truth of who he is.
And it's coming from a really deep undercurrent of lack.
That's right.
And a lack of self-love and a lack of knowing himself. And
that's right.
Best believe I need a man who knows himself.
Absolutely. Because how's he ever going to know you?
Right. He can't see
if he's avoiding himself.
If he can't see himself.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that there's, of course, divinity in everybody's journey, right? But what was so fascinating to me was, I was numb. I couldn't feel much. My body would respond and I had no idea what I was feeling and I needed food to soothe that. And it was like I was in that hamster wheel for nonstop. And as I started down this medicine path and became more conscious and slowly dipped a toe into the water of feeling my body, I realized how deeply unsafe I felt. And I had these implants, and actually it was ayahuasca. I asked the medicine, my first ceremony, what do I do about these? And she was like, you got them, you might as well enjoy them for a little while. Mm-hmm. And I kept going with this path and it was so magical. That's a whole nother story, but it was like, okay, now you need to get them out. And the contrast between the time that I had them towards the end of them coming out and how I was waking up and becoming conscious and somatically conscious, what was happening in my body, and the after was I realized how these things, not only did they just divinely and perfectly encapsulate my trauma, just so vividly, so perfectly, but they were also this energetic magnet for the same vibration of man.
That's exactly correct.
They were pulling predatory men my way, from glances to comments, everywhere I went. So naturally I was shrinking and shrinking because I felt unsafe. I felt petrified. And after I got them out and that so much of that energy was purged from my body, I walk the world differently. I feel safe in my body. Yeah, I still had to move through a lot of the sexual abuse, but so much of the feelings of unsafety and terror in the world was gone.
It's so interesting you bring this up. I've had fear around sharing this, but because I don't want to, I know my words and I know the power that they have and I know that they
pierce. Yeah.
Yeah. The same yours do, by the way. So I've never wanted to go this deep, but this is the only way we're going to heal. Like, my truth was, I can remember when I was thinking of, who I wanted to be with forever.
Mm.
If they had implants, they would immediately, it was a no.
Mm.
I want to do it. Because it says something about where they're at energetically in their life right now.
Yeah.
And I just knew that just wasn't a match for me.
Yeah.
And so, so for so many women out there, it like breaks my heart because, I get the messages and I see the responses and it's like,
Sure.
How do I find a conscious man? How do I find a conscious man? And every once in a while I'll look and I'm like, oh, I'll just click on the Instagram handle. And I'm like, oh, get it. Huh?
And like bless them
For where they are right
and
now.
their
Yes.
journey.
Yes.
Like I was there, I feel them.
And by the way, and I
Reverence.
was there with the steroids too.
Yeah.
But this is why we can speak about it.
Yeah. I have compassion.
Yeah.
Similar to the fact when I see someone who's carrying a lot of excess weight, there's not an ounce of judgment. My overwhelming feeling is like, I want to know what happened to you. I want to know why you're carrying so much pain in the form of weight, because that's just pushing it down with food. So naturally that energy needs to be put somewhere and it's put in adipose tissue. It's put in fat.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a woman with implants, it's like, mama, like nothing is missing from you. Let's go into that original wound. The name of my business is the root cause method, because the roots, the manifestation of chronic illness is rooted in trauma. And it's like, let's pull out the weeds, let's pull out the roots and get to that nugget, heal from that space. And then you can just shed everything that's untrue, everything that's misaligned, relationships, silicone, injections, whatever. I went through a huge purge. I got married. I think I speak to like 2 of the women that were in my bridal party. Like it was a different life.
I can relate.
And this one is so juicy.
So much juicier.
Oh, it's so
much
good.
juicier. It's interesting because like we're planning our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the first time I did this, like, I don't think I speak to anybody. It was all show.
Oh yeah.
This is, I get emotional just thinking about it because it's like, I know I'm going to cry like a baby, you know, because I know how much work it took me to like get to this space, where I could like,
beautiful.
Where I know what love is, right?
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Like to know that. To know that you're choosing someone.
Yeah.
Because they choose you for who you are, and
because you chose yourself.
Because you chose yourself, and you went to all of that, and you just unraveled all of it, and you found real love. Like it's just monumental. It's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing.
It's a byproduct of you choosing yourself.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct of you and your willingness to do the work and show up when it's crunchy and when it's hard and when it's terrifying. And it's so damn worth it.
It is. And that's why I tell everybody, I say, everything you've ever wanted is just on the other side of fear.
Yeah. And here's the thing. In order for somebody to open up to that, because sometimes when I sit in medicine, it still feels scary, right? And I've been shown so many parts of the movie that I lived as a child that, my nervous system responds in a contracted way. It can feel scary. But the thing is when there's safety in the container, when someone that you trust is holding space, when you can begin to establish safety within yourself, you are held. You are so held to the point where your nervous system can open and receive whatever there is that wants to come through for your liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's such an important variable that, yes, bless the medicine so deeply, such reverence, and to dance with them in a safe way, that's the magic. Because then people can really confront real gnarly stuff
really, yeah.
that will change their lives forever in the most
Forever.
magical,
The most
epic way.
beautiful way. It's my conversations like these remind me of my purpose, because I remember when I first sat with the medicine, I literally, this is funny. I literally had the vision. I was like, okay, if I could, this was my first time after the medicine. My first journey was the scariest moment of my life.
That's a nice intro.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was a control freak, right? But then by the time the third one was done, I was like, I cannot wait to come back.
Wow.
This is beautiful. And I remember leaving that retreat. You know how they tell you, okay, whatever you do, don't go tell everybody because they're going to think you're crazy. They're going to, right? I don't listen. So I remember I was like, if I could just get every human on earth to just look up and open their mouths, and I could fly by with a helicopter and just spray it over everybody. That's it. The world is a better place. Everybody's happy.
That's amazing.
Right? Everything is good, right? And that's how I think, So I remember telling Tim way back then, I go, Tim, eventually we're going to have a ceremony with 20,000 people.
Holy shit.
That's how we're going to do it.
A lot of energy.
And I know there's a lot of energy, right? But that's the vision for Awaken, where it's, through what we do at Awaken, it's like, it's a ceremony over 3 days. By the way, you live here, right?
I do.
Okay. You got to come in November. You're going to absolutely love it. And it's like, and then from Awaken, we take them to Reunion. It's like a dream come true for me.
I told Tim this. I was like, this is such a beautiful spiritual alliance between the two of you. The work you're doing, like I see, it's such sacred work. I honor both of you and what will come from this alliance so deeply.
Yeah. I won reunions all over the world. Mm-hmm. By the way, I don't even own Reunion. I don't, but I know the integrity.
There's such integrity.
There's integrity with the medicine.
My mother is on the path.
Yeah.
In a really beautiful way.
Yeah.
But integrity and clean.
It's the right reason, the right energy, the right everything. Because, ayahuasca and the medicine and everything, it's getting popular.
Yeah.
And people are trying to like profit from it. And it's just, so anyways. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to say this, like this brought healing to me. It really, really did. It was like, it's so beautiful that, this was at the end of a week where I had been working through this myself, and it resonated so much with me. And I want to go enjoy some tacos right now after this is done.
Yeah.
How do people find out about you?
So the name of my site is therootcausemethod.com. On Instagram, I'm Jillian Acosta _RD.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for hanging with us, because I know that, wow, the energy was so powerful in this conversation. And yet at the same time, we touched on some things that, they might be challenging. And all I would recommend for you is to just sit with them. Just sit with them. Honest to God, give yourself 5 minutes to just sit and breathe and search your heart and see what resonates with you. And when you need help, just ask the universe, and the path will make itself clear. The right people will show up, and you'll see, you'll get the healing that you're looking for. We'll see you next time on another episode of The Higher Self. Thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. If you heard something in this week's episode that caused you to think maybe, just maybe, there was a higher potential for your life, maybe there was a potential to earn and receive financial freedom, to attract the relationship of your dreams, or to improve your health, that's what we specialize in. We help wonderful human beings like yourself to unravel all of the limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been living through so that you can finally tap into your life's truest potential. If you'd like to talk more about that, we invite you to join us on Instagram or Facebook and email us the word "discover more." And when my team sees that, they will reach out to you, send you the details of how we could help you on your pathway to a life of abundance, fulfillment, and creating the absolute life of your dreams. Message us right now the words "Discover More Now" on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you soon.